to another YouTube video from Magna. So the game I'm going to be playing tonight, or today, is Mount & Blade Warband. Lots of you might have heard of this, but lots of you might not have. It's not a very massive game. It's a pretty big kind of relatively indie game. It's a RPG game. It's basically on a medieval basis with a kind of fantasy story backdrop, but it also has multiplayer. It's a really unique kind of RPG though, because it's a very kind of different type of hack and slash. You could say it's third person as well, though you can go first person in the game. And I think the best way for you to understand what Mount & Blade Warband is for me to show you. So it has single player and multiplayer. I'm going to do some single player because the single player game is really unique, and you can play it for absolutely hours on end if you really like it. You can get absolutely lost in it. There's so much to do. So we'll go through the creation of a character. Basically you create a character and you give them the kind of backstories you'll see. So I've done the single player quite a few times, and I've had characters that have gone through a long way, a lot of progress, but I can show you how you progress in this game. There's actually various ways in which you can do this. Something it interestingly does point out on the screen you'll probably see here, that it points out that if you choose a female character, it tries to recreate a kind of realistic cultural background of a kind of medieval world. So it points out that if you're a woman character, you'll actually struggle to rise up through the ranks, in any particular faction or as any kind of nobility, because obviously people will, all the people in power will be male and will treat you with a lot of scorn. But if you prove yourself, you can still do it. So I'm actually going to be a male character. I just prefer playing male characters. I don't know why. So you first state what your father was. So you've got a selection of things: an impoverished noble, a travelling merchant, a veteran warrior, a hunter, a steppe nomad, or a thief. Now I think I'm going to go for veteran warrior because I don't think I've ever really chosen that. And then you have to say what you did as a child, page at a nobleman's court, a craftsman's apprentice, a shop assistant, a street urchin, or a stepchild. Now I'm not sure. I might go as a page at a nobleman's court because I don't think I've ever done that. Then you have to choose what you did as a young adult. It gives you some backdrop to what you did, like a kind of generic storyline for depending on which thing you chose. I think I'm actually going to choose to say that I became a squire. So the squire is like a knight in waiting, basically, like a knight in training. So it generally refers to boys or teenagers who obviously weren't old enough to be adults and were training and learning how to become knights. Then it asks why you chose to strike out on your own as an adventurer, and this is what you do in the land that is called Calredia. And I struck out for Wanderlust, and then it tells you all the generic writing. You don't need to see this. Game saving policy, no quitting without saving, I think. Enter your name and distribute your skills and stuff. So what can I call this? Actually, easy name, like the game. So you have three different kind of things that you can upgrade throughout the game as your character levels. So you've got attributes. Attributes were particular kind of four very broad categories of strength, agility, intelligence, and charisma, and they all relate to these skills. So you have to have a certain level of the attributes to upgrade certain levels of the various skills along here. So obviously intelligence would relate to things like pathfinding, for instance. Charisma relates to things like trade and leadership. Strength obviously relates to things like having power draws. That's what kind of level of bows you can use and other things. So it's interesting. It's quite a varied upgrade system, not completely massive, but at the same time not too overwhelming. I normally give 1 point to each of my stats because I don't feel a particular need to change what they give me. And obviously your attributes, the base number that you get given by the game depends on what your life choices you've just made are. So you've got like strength. I've got a lot of strength and agility because I've been a page, and my father was a warrior as well, so I have a kind of warrior background, which is why, you know, maybe a bit stereotyping is I don't have very high intelligence in this character. So you've got lots of different skills. So it's Iron Flesh, so how many points and how many hit points you have. Weapon masteries, your limit of numbers on these proficiencies in each weapon type. Tracking, so you can track other groups on the map, as you'll see in a bit. Pathfinding is how you see other people's trails, so you can see, like, for instance, how long ago a group of what particular size went by as you're travelling across the map. Inventory management, because you get lots of items in an inventory that you can sell, so that increases the amount you can have inventory for. Also, as you'll see, when you interact with AI, you have AI recruits in your band and warriors that are AI. And you can actually get injured in this game rather than just killed. So because people and characters can get injured rather than killed, you get things such as first aid, where you can heal people quicker as you move, or surgery, which can actually gives you a certain increased chance for your an AI or character to be wounded rather than killed. So what am I going to put myself into? So I'm going to do some prisoner management, because you can actually capture prisoners when you beat other enemies, and you can sell them to slave traders basically in cities, which is a kind of interesting dynamic that isn't in many games. And obviously, you know, makes you think of it. You know, slave trade happened in lots of places, and obviously in this fictional world, slave trading is a useful way of getting money. It's really actually important for making you money in this game. So I think I'll go for inventory management as well, because you tend to get a load of stuff, so it's nice to be able to sell it. I could give myself some extra trade, because selling the stuff you get from battles is actually a really important way of getting money. So the more trade ability you have, the better price you get to sell in cities and towns for particular items. Shield, I think I'll give myself. I don't know why I don't already have some shield proficiency as a warrior, and Iron Flesh, because I'll probably take a lot of hits. So I already have good ability in 1- and 2-handed weapons and polearms. Not that good at the kind of ranged archery, crossbow stuff. I think I'll actually give myself some in archery, because I want to be a mix of kind of warrior with a sword and shield, there we go, but also maybe with a bow and arrow. So once we've done all those, we can say done, and we choose our character. I have no particular preference for how my character looks, and I never really want it to look really weird, which you can actually make it look really weird in this game, because you've got these kind of ratios on this side of the screen you can see here, so you can give yourself like ridiculously weird face shapes and nose shapes. I'm just going to randomise it, because I don't particularly care. I'll just go for a decent looking character. It's worrying how many of these people with the long hair and their beards look like me. Oh dear. What should we go for? I like having a guy with a full beard. Obviously, you can also see you get like different kind of facial shapes, and they kind of relate to some of the factions and the regions they're in. So there's nothing good come up yet. Let's just go for that. I don't really care. So you get 6 options in which to start the game. It's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6. So you get 6 options because there are 6 factions in this game, and so you can choose in any particular way to join some kind of either caravan or a ship to get to any of the capital cities of the 6 factions in the land called Caradia. So as you can see, the list of the names: there's the Kingdom of Swardia, Kingdom of the Vaegirs, the Kurgit Khanate, Kingdom of the Nords, Kingdom of the Rhodoks, and the Saranid Sultanate. And these all actually relate to kind of particular historical groups or nations to an extent, with the way that they build some of them and how some of their kind of military units work out. So you can choose to join any of these, and you don't have to join with the faction you choose to go to as a city. It just gives you the kind of starting quest. So where do we want to go? I think I should start. I'll go with the Rhodoks because I've never been with the Rhodoks before. So I arrive in Jelkala from a ship. Unfortunately, as you may not have seen in the writing, I arrive in the city. It's evening, and I hear a sword being pulled from its scabbard. Uh-oh. That means I'm under attack. Bandits! Kill them! So you can see I've got a crossbow already, and I've also got a sword and shield. You can see I'm being attacked by a bandit, presumably for money. Yeah, there's a bandit. And you'll see next a character running in. So this is basically your introduction, basically to fighting mechanics. There is a separate tutorial where it shows you how to fight. So here I meet the Merchant of Jelkala. He asked me if I'm alright. I'm not going to go through some of the text because most people don't like doing that. I don't mind reading text from AI. I quite like it. But basically what he does is he takes you into his house to safeguard you, and then he offers you a quest. So basically he says, I think his brother got captured by bandits, and he says there's a problem with bandits within whichever city it is. This is the same quest for every city. It's always a merchant of whichever city, and he'll just give you a quest. I'm going to do the opening quest just so you can see, even though I've done it lots of times. And really it's basically just training to show you how the game mechanics work and basically how to recruit people. So it says Q for your quest log. So the task that he's given me, the merchant's given me some money. I've got to go to one of the nearest villages and I've got to recruit some recruits. So you press the tab key to leave any particular area. So this, hello, is the map of Caradia. So as you can see, all these green areas are the Kingdom of Rhodoks cities and towns. Here is Jelkala, and here is me. So all the figures appear on the map, including you. So you've obviously got a figure to show also that you're on a horse, because you automatically get given a horse at the start of the game. So that helps you travel quicker. For instance, if you don't have a horse and you travel on foot, you travel slower across the map, because obviously, you know, it makes sense. So it says 1 next to me because you can have other units with you. So you can have, as I said, you can have AI and you recruit them to you. Because of that, obviously, it specifies how many people I'm travelling with. Also, when you hover over anybody, it'll tell you what you're doing. So you see that weighting underneath. That changes depending on what you're doing. So, for instance, for different AI characters, it can tell you if they're travelling to a particular city, if they're following another group. Also, it tells you their kind of health and the strength of a party. So you can see troops, and obviously it's just me in. 100% represents my health, so obviously your health can be down, but you can still be alive, and it shows you kind of the state of play. So I've been told to recruit, get 5 recruits from a village. Obviously you've got this toolbar down here, it shows you various things. You're normally mainly looking at the inventory, so obviously the inventory is what you've got. So as you can see from earlier, I've got crossbows. You also need bolts in order to use crossbows. You have limits on ammo, and obviously a sword and shield. I've also got some basic armour. I also have a fish. So the other thing about this game is that if you yourself need food in order to stay alive, you also need food to feed your men when you recruit them. And if you actually run out of food, because there's a number of units, so there's 50 fish there. If you don't have enough food to feed all your men and you run out of food, then people actually start deserting you. So troops can leave you if you don't have enough food. So let's go over to Buvran, which is a village. Obviously it tells you about the map, it's just giving me tutorial stuff. So there's 3 different types of kind of things on the map. So I'm just recruiting some people from a village here. So villages are where you recruit new units, and then it's randomised how many people decide to join you, because basically you'll go into the village to ask for any spare kind of men of the right age, and it will get randomised how many troops you get. You can actually forge better relationships with villagers. You may be able to see this 0 here tells you how much relationship you have with the village. If you do particular tasks for that village, for instance, if you say go to the village centre, you can go and meet an elder and they'll give you a quest. If you complete those quests, you improve your relationship and you tend to get more recruits from a particular place. But obviously it's still randomised how many people you get. Sometimes you can get quite a lot of people, even from a village you don't have good relationships with. So you've got three types of kind of physical, man-made kind of structures on the map. So you've got cities, which are the ones with big writing on. You've got various castles, and castles are owned by the various nobles and the AI in the game. And then there's villages where you recruit people from. It's where also people travel from to go to markets. For instance, you'll occasionally see farmers travel across the map to go to different cities. It's also where you can get quests and help people and other things. So obviously I've only got one other person, and so I've just run into a band there. So I don't know if you saw on the map, there was actually a band of enemies there. So the important thing is obviously to take account of their number. It said there are 11 there. Now there's only me and another recruit. Obviously I'm going to be better than the recruit at fighting, but at the same time I don't really want to still have the possibility of losing, and obviously losing my own recruit. Now I could say I surrender. Unfortunately, sometimes looters or bandits will give you a choice and like ask you for a certain amount of money for them to leave you alone. Unfortunately, in this case, they've run into me and they don't want to give me any chance. Obviously, because it seems kind of pointless. So you'll see this AI here is just a tribesman. So when you recruit from villages, normally when you're not a very high level kind of lord or person, you can only recruit the most basic type of unit from a village, and that's just tribesmen or villagers. They have different names depending on what faction you're with, and they're very basic. They don't have very good weapons, and obviously as you can see they don't have particularly great armour. But you can upgrade them as they fight and as they win with you a lot of the time. Now I'm probably going to lose this tribesman because I've got to fight off all these people. And you can see they're actually throwing stones, which is pretty funny. So you can actually have throwing weapons in the game. Oh, I killed him. And rocks are the most basic one that looters and bandits always seem to have. You can also tell they're a pretty kind of basic type of enemy, because again they're not very well armoured. Half of them are actually naked or half naked, and they don't have very good weapons. Like, you know, if you look, they don't even have proper swords. They have like kind of clubs and kind of slightly short rubbish swords. So this is obviously pretty easy because the AI isn't too difficult to deal with, and obviously it's useful that I've got you know, slightly better weaponry than them, and also a horse. And that's the other big thing about Mount and Blade that's unique. You can fight from a horse, you know, in the same way that you can fight from the ground. So you have different directions of swinging at people. People and the AI can actually block, but you have to block in the right direction by seeing which way somebody's about to swing. So I have a slash kind of attack. I've got a thrust, and then I've got a swing to either side. And obviously the enemy can block that, or the AI can block that if they want. And basically it's just a game of like riding around the enemy. So I managed to almost finish them off. Also, other interesting thing, if the horse charges and hits a person, that actually does damage to them, which is one of the interesting things. You can see I've got experience and I've just advanced to level 2, and once you're finished with the battle you actually have to press tab to leave, which is kind of a slightly weird thing. You also get a list of casualties and the amount of enemies killed. Unfortunately my only Road Up tribesman has now been killed, which is not very good, but you know, oh well. But I've also killed nearly all of the enemies, and I've actually got one looter injured, so I can actually capture him and take him as a prisoner, so I can possibly keep him to sell for later, which sounds really disturbing to say, but that is what you do with prisoners. If you increase prisoner management, you can increase the amount of prisoners you can take, so I can only take 5 at the moment because I've only got 1 point in prisoner management. And then also you get all this list of items that the looters supposedly had, and you can either sell them or obviously take some of the armour and use it as your own. So there's not really any good weapons there, and most of the armour is either as good as mine or not quite as good as mine. So now I've done that, you also share experience with your party when you win, which is useful for, which is obviously used by them to level up. Unfortunately, obviously there's nobody else in my party now, so none of them can level up. So I'm going to another village. Unfortunately, sometimes, as you saw there, there's nobody wants to be recruited, so sometimes that'll happen. Also, you can have negative relationships with villagers, so obviously if you Sometimes you can do quests for lords, for instance, where you take taxation from them. So you basically hang around in the village and take taxes, and obviously the peasants are not very happy about that. So you tend to get a decreased relationship with the village. You also have relationships with cities as well, which you can generally win by also doing quests relevant to the cities, or for instance winning tournaments. So finally I've got some more recruits. I've got 3 recruits here. If we go to notes, you can see my quests, and it says that I need to still collect 5 men. So I'm going to go to this last village, and hopefully I will gain the amount of men I need. So I'm just going to see how much money I have. So the amount of money you have is in the bottom right here, and it's in dinars, which is actually like a slight corruption of the Roman coinage, which is denarii, or at one point it was denarii, I think, because I think Roman coinage changed a lot. So dinars is the same currency throughout the whole of Caradia, which is interesting. They have a unified currency but not a unified land. Though interestingly, in the backstory to Caradia, all of Caradia used to be united under one kingdom. Unfortunately, there was various kind of disagreements between the regions, whatever happened, so they obviously broke apart over disagreements, and they've broken into the 6 different factions that you have still today. So you can also see, so look, there's lords that ride about. I've accidentally entered Jalcala, I don't need to do that. So there's lords riding about, and obviously you can see information about them. Most of the time they tend to be patrolling around a certain area. That's King Graveth as well. He's the leader of the Rodok faction, and you can see like a list of the troops they have. You can also see what speed somebody's going at. So you have certain amounts of speed. Obviously, the smaller the party you are, the faster you are. And it's also useful for seeing when you're chasing enemies, because obviously enemies, as long as you can see them across the map, you can actually chase them. So, and I've just run into another set of looters, so I think I'll kill them this time, because again they haven't given me an option to pay them, and also hopefully be useful training for my troops. So this is the other thing. You go into first person mode, or like a zoomed in mode, by pressing R is the default. You can also press shift to zoom in, which is really useful for archers and crossbowmen, and you can do that in the multiplayer, which is really useful. And you can see this kind of reticule effect, where the reticule actually expands outwards as you prepare to fire. So there's different types of ranged weapons. So as you can see, there's crossbow. Crossbow tends to be slower to reload, but does a lot more damage. Unfortunately, crossbows don't do as much damage at longer range, whereas bows will do the same damage and can normally reach a little bit longer. Crossbows are very good at medium range, but obviously they're slow to reload. So that battle has been won. Fortunately, I've had no casualties. And all the looters are killed, and I can capture another guy to sell to the slave trader later. So really disturbing kind of aspect of the game. Also, obviously, you can see my inventory's full. So the next time I take on any more loot, if my inventory's still full later, you'll see me prioritise particular things. We've just beaten a set of looters. We're about to go to the next village to recruit our final set of troops. It's been about 24 minutes now, so I think I'll pause there for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed. Leave a comment. Remember to like the video and also subscribe if you want to give me any advice about how the video is edited, or any of the things I'm doing in the video, or if you want to see particular things or you need more things explained to you, feel free to state them. Hope you've enjoyed watching. I'll see you again soon. See you guys.